My friends, you know what? This week, we say screw the haters. Was thinking I wasn't going to make a video, especially after the last couple of days on Twitter and some of the replies, but let's do it anyway. It's going to be a little bit quicker, though, because I ain't got time for that. You guys know the deal. Nothing about this video is financial advice. I'm just giving you my opinion on the market. I want you to make awesome decisions for yourself, your family, and your portfolio. So having said that, started to see a little bit of a turnaround in the market on Friday of this past week on SPY. Run through the indexes real quick and then take a look at a whole bunch of different charts that I think are setting up nicely. So if you'll remember, I said when we had the Powell sell-off back over here late December, I said, hey, let's just go back up to 600 on SPY so then everybody and their dog can draw out head and shoulders charts. And that's pretty much exactly what we've been seeing here recently. Got the clear kind of head and shoulder look. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're not, out of the danger zone or anything like that by any means as of right now. But I do think that we are set up nice over the next couple of weeks. I was telling my Discord, I think we start getting some daily closes back over 600 and I'll feel real good about where we're going. Now, in the short term for this week, I definitely want to see 591 hold. This is going to be that key support resistance flip. So from all the way back over here, this was the post Trump gap up over here. So closing back above that on Friday is key. I like the fact that the bears were not able to push us down. The reality is no matter what, when in doubt, zooming out, I wouldn't be concerned about anything as far as calling it a normal pullback unless we started getting below like the 565, 567. And when we look back, that was this key top area from July of 2024 where we rejected, came back up, rejected again, then we broke through, retested, so on and so forth. So I would consider anything I saw above that 565 as nothing more than a normal pullback. But there's nothing more bullish than a failed bearish move. And I think that is what we are going to be getting on SPY. But we want to start seeing some daily closes, of course, back above this key 600 level. Also remember too, guys, this is a short week on the market. We'll be closed on Thursday, January the 9th for my birthday. No, that is my birthday, but we're going to be closed on January 9th because of Jimmy Carter. So factor that into your decision-making process. So no doubt about it, I want a good week on SPY. I want to close these bear gap downs. A key thing to always remember on the market is that anytime you catch a gap down or a gap up, to show you the strength in the trend is how long does it take for that gap to get filled. So the gap downs that we have been getting so far, they haven't filled, right? So we have this gap down here from Friday and then into Monday. So the strongest week that we can possibly have is closing all these bear gap downs and then starting to make new highs after that. Pretty light week overall on data, except JOLTS job openings on Tuesday. And then we have non-farm payrolls on Friday. So remember, because we're closed on Thursday, you need to make any of those type of decisions Wednesday, because that comes out an hour before market open on Friday. And that could be a big mover, the non-farm payroll numbers. We'll probably get a 2 to 3 point move on SPY pre-market heading into that, whether it be good or bad. So pretty much on QQQ, what I'm looking for is here's where we broke out. Now we push down. So you're kind of getting this sort of falling wedge slash bull flag look that you were getting. There's a couple of different trend lines that you could draw out on QQQ that feel pretty valid to me. So whether you look at it as a bull flag or kind of a falling wedge, I think it all looks good. What I like on QQQ is, like I just said on SPY, nothing more bullish than a failed bearish move. So you were getting a daily 921 cross down, your daily 5 SMA, but you bounced really strong off the 50-day moving average. Now SPY is still trapped slightly under. It's like right around 593. So like I said, we want to recover that very quickly. But you had a very strong bounce on the 50-day on QQQ. And I also think a lot of the semiconductor charts, I think all look very primed for nice moves to the top side, particularly NVIDIA and TSM. We'll look at those in just a second. But you got that 921 daily cross down, but it was immediately met by a large gap up. And then once again, that gap down did not fill, or excuse me, the gap up did not fill to the downside. So we stayed gapped up and then had a strong push on Friday. So we just want to see continuation. Even if we gap down a little bit, that's totally fine. But you just want to start seeing those key supports hold. So really for me, about 517 on Q is really what I want to see. So even if we gap up and we sell off, that's fine. Just want to see those supports continue to hold. No real opinion on IWM. It obviously got hit the hardest with Powell's speech. Market looked very much more of a risk-off environment at that point in time. But came down here, this level of 218. You can ask anybody on my Discord. That level was drawn out for a long time. We bounced off of it, essentially kind of creating a double bottom look off that 218. So bears were not able to get below that 218. It in daily closes. Once again, I think that is a very good sign. Also keeping an eye on the crypto market. Bitcoin moved back up about 5%. This past week, I think, is what it was. Sorry, let me just double check that for the sake of accuracy. In the past week, yeah, Bitcoin is up 5.5% in the past week. So seeing crypto recover just gives you a much better indication of how the market is feeling overall as far as a risk-on environment. Now, Tesla, bad delivery numbers, but what I liked on it, and by bad, I mean it missed. So it still grew year over year. But Wall Street was anticipating like 505,000, came in at like 497. So overall, big picture, plus their energy business did way better than anticipated. So I also think that's another reason why you saw the recovery. My investment thesis on Tesla has very little to do with EVs. But we gapped down, sold off. I personally averaged down on a whole bunch of calls that I had once it was obvious we were holding that key 380 level, which was this imbalance from back over here, this gap up move when we were breaking out of the ascending triangle. And then it paid off in a big way on Friday, which also, too, if you haven't done so already, please follow me on Twitter, Colin_Gladman. That's where I'm going to be posting, charts and intraday analysis, things of that nature. And then hopefully, if we can get enough likes on these videos on a regular basis, you'll be getting these weekly videos. I've also kind of thought about doing little snapshot ones that are even shorter videos that are going to be like 5 minutes long, focusing only on one stock. So, let me know in the comments if you think that's a good idea. So same thing. The most bullish thing is a failed bearish mood. We had the strong gap down when Tesla missed its delivery numbers, but bears were not able to get it below that 380. I mean, we dipped below it, but we closed just barely below it. And then in after hours, moved back above it. And then, of course, opened up and Tesla had a real nice 8% green day. So as of right now, if we do catch any more downside on Tesla, then that 360 to 355 level in there, that is going to be the next big key level to hold. But I think as of right now, the most likely move is a move back topside, at least to 430. And I'll kind of go in here. The only reason I'm spending a little bit more time on Tesla than I would most stocks is because it's the one that I trade all the time. So clear falling resistance line right here. Once you get back above here, that's going to meet up at around that 430. 430 was obviously a key support resistance flip. You still have a bear gap down around 430. So I do think 430 could be a sticky area. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I also thought 400 was going to be a little bit stickier than it was on Friday. Tesla was one of the strongest stocks. It had some of the strongest flows. For those of you that pay attention to the option market, which I think is certainly a good thing to do. I use it as a piece of the puzzle. I always tell my team everything about TA is just taking as many pieces of the puzzle, whether it's an EMA, an SMA, a candle pattern, a trend line. You take all those little pieces and you try to put them together into the best picture that you think that you can have. Once we failed to hold the previous all-time high, of course, then we dipped down below. But like I said, we found support from this last move back over here on Tesla. Also same thing. support. That's at 618 Fibonacci. So the golden pocket acted as support. So I think Tesla looks good here. I really do. I anticipate a move overall back to at least 430, and then we'll kind of have to see how we react at that point in time. The reality is short term, Tesla is in a downtrend. While overall the macro trend is still very much topside, the reality is we have a high, followed by a low, followed by a lower high, followed by a lower low. So the reality is until Tesla really breaks structure, you're going to need to start putting in a higher high, back up here around that 470 to 480. Until then, you have to be wary of potentially coming up, meeting some resistance, then making a lower low. I personally still think that this is all a very normal, natural corrective move after Tesla, rocketed, post-Trump and everything like that. I mean, the reality is the thing has moved 128% in a very short period of time. So this is a very normal, natural cool off. The reality is anything from the earnings downtrend, even anything all the way back down to 300 would be a very normal corrective move. It's just with Tesla, you get so much more volatility, which is why I love to trade it. So what I'm going to be watching for as of right now, I have no position other than the shares that I'm in and some puts that I have sold. But what I am going to be watching for is that previous all-time high on Tesla. That's going to kind of be the first line in the sand. If we gap above it, you'd want to see some type of retest and then a continued push higher. If we stay below it at open, any push up that gets rejected, and there's a very good chance we could start to continue to come down. Obviously, the overall market is going to help just a little bit. Sofi is one that I really like, that on a daily, once again, held its 50-day moving average. It does have a gap down right here from this like 1530 level, so you would want to see that gap down obliterated, if you will. It's got a bullish inside bar. I like all of that, but it does need to start moving topside. But overall, macro-wise, as long as it continues to hold this previous support resistance flip, overall, I think it looks good. It very much reminds me of Hood. Hood is one of my favorite setups right now. Let me get down in here into the daily. But this is kind of what I want to see from SoFi. So Hood, once it broke through that 35, it's come back, tested it a couple of different times, and it's held up very well. Overall, I think Hood, over the next 12 to 18 months, I really expect Hood to at least double. I really do. I think it's a great setup. So going back to SoFi, you just want to see a similar look. You want to see that support resistance flip come into play, start pushing up. You want to start making some higher highs over that 16. I do personally have shares in SoFi bought back over here around like the 13 level. MicroStrategy, kind of same idea, guys, is nothing's more bullish than a failed bearish move. You had this clear and obvious trend line. You broke down. You spent very little time. Volume declined as you broke down. And then now you have a high volume move, a gap and go move, back above that trend line, back above the 50-day, above all your short-term EMAs really, except for the 21-day. I think that if MicroStrategy starts to make a new high above 450, you're going to make new all-time highs. Obviously, it's going to help that Bitcoin continues to remain strong. Now, the one thing looking at it, of course, as always, is how much is Saylor just going to continue to dilute? I just love the fact that the sentiment on it was getting really bad. I mean, pretty much bottom ticked it with my tweet saying, everybody hates this thing now. Like, oh, it's already retraced 50% from its, move. So I don't know. It's just one of those that anytime Twitter starts to sound like they know everything that's going on, I like to fake Twitter. It's pretty easy. AMD, another setup that I like. I fully expect AMD to start pressing back up towards around that 135 ballpark. Another one that very much just giving me the exact same vibes that it did. I've covered this one for a long time back over here, where you had the false breakout of this very long bull flag, came down, took out all the previous lows before then, as you can see, leaving very rapidly. Now, earnings helped on this one. AMD's earnings, which earnings in general, guys, isn't going to be coming out till really towards the end of January. We're going to be jumping back into earnings season. So AMD doesn't have earnings to kind of help it here. But so long as you don't make a new low past where we're at right now, I do think, like I said, I think the semis all look very good overall in general. This is very much kind of that sort of 1-2 impulsive look where you have a strong move followed by a low volume pullback. Let's see what that retrace was. Probably somewhere between 786 to 618. Yeah, I mean pretty much the 786 right on the dot. Let me zoom in here so you can see. So I love these type of moves. You put in a higher low, then you have a real nice high volume bullish day. I think this one is I definitely think it's going to push up and test towards that 134 maybe this week. Yeah, I think you're going up to 132 to 135, somewhere in that ballpark. So could definitely be a great option, right, for a short-term option lotto if you want to take that this week, like heading into non-farm payroll, something along those lines. But I do think AMD is looking good, and it's another one that everybody just wants to hate on it right now. So I like that. NVIDIA, I think this thing looks super strong. You broke out of your long-term resistance, then you had a low volume consolidation pullback, then you basically had a gap and go kind of day. What that means is you gap up. Yeah, we came back just a little bit, but this is what I was talking about on Tesla. You came back, you touched that 50-day moving average, and then just boom, straight up pretty much all day. I love the fact that this is another one I'll probably pull a receipt on Twitter where I said it's going to be a head and shoulder look. Everybody was going to draw it. The reality is Bears had every opportunity to shove this thing under 130. I always told my Discord team, as long as this thing stays above 130, it's going much, much higher. It held that 130 line in the sand, and now you've got your daily downtrend that you broke out of, retested, starting to push. So now I really expect NVIDIA to start putting pressure on that 150 range. Do remember Jensen, I believe the Consumer Electronics Show is this week, so keep that in mind if you're doing anything in video related. But I absolutely love this type of setup for more topside. Certainly any pullbacks towards 140, you would want to see those hold. I think 140 is a very viable dip on NVIDIA for the short term. You guys know the deal, not financial advice, but anything between 140 to 130 I think is very viable. That's my opinion on it. I could be wrong. Palantir, another one, kind of like NVIDIA, you had that strong move, comeback, retested, pretty much just retesting the previous highs, had a real nice day on Friday. Wouldn't be surprised at all with continuation. And this is another one that, think about how ugly the market has been, and Palantir really hasn't pulled back that much. So even though it ran a ton, right, where Tesla, you have this massive sell-off, right, after running 120%, pulls back 25%, Palantir really hasn't done anything. It stayed up in this range. So even though it ran really, really hard, the pullback was very light, and then you have a day like Friday, you get another 6% day. So typically, those stocks that run the hardest are going to see the ugliest pullbacks when the market decides to fade a little bit. But you're just not seeing that with Palantir, man. It really is looking strong. It's the one, like I said, I bought about 1,000 shares in that like kind of 14 range, and now I'm like, dang, I wish I would have bought a whole lot more. But it is just like, and there's so many charts that look like this, guys. Between SoFi's and Oklos and Roblox and Squares. I mean, there's just so many good looking charts that look like this, but Palantir looks like it could, still keep running. It's one that I'm not personally chasing at this point in time, but when I look at a chart like Hood, right, and then you think about what Palantir's done now, I mean, I really think Hood, it's getting caught up here where it IPO'd and had a bunch of support, which is perfectly normal and natural, but I really think Hood can be a real nice winner. Same thing with you. I think you is one of those ones that when we, when in doubt, kind of zoom out, right, it looks like it's in the early. I do not give two shits if Roaring Kitty is in this one at all, so all trolls feel free to suck it. This one is a clear accumulative move. I really think it can easily push up to in the 50s, into the 60s by year end, maybe even a lot sooner. Obviously, if any news any news comes out with it, but you have just a clean inverse head and shoulders, breakout, retest, push out, falling wedge, push out. I mean, it's very bullish setup in my personal opinion. Okay, listen to that if you want to. I own shares in it. That's all I'm owning right now. The fact that it's coming up here and getting rejected is no surprise at all. Of course, you'd want to watch like this trend line right in here. This could absolutely take some time, come in here and then you get that next move out of it. But the bigger the base, the bigger the move. This thing is building up a big base. I absolutely think it's a, if you're actually looking for, deep value type stocks and everything like that, a huge sell-off and then all this volume coming in here, there's no doubt in my mind that Unity is going through a accumulation phase and it's going to pay off. It might be on down the road, and that's fine. That's why I own shares. I'm not looking for anything quick, but you go back to a Palantir chart, right? Here's your inverse head and shoulders down here, and then once it finally started moving, Doesn't mean it'll have to move the same way. Hood, another one. Clear accumulation in here. Now it's moving. Unity, this is one that, in my opinion, is in the beginning stages. I'll go ahead and jump over to it real quick too. SQ is another one. Go back here on a weekly chart. Beautiful inverse head and shoulders breakout, retesting that neckline, starting to push off, put in a bullish engulfing candle, volume increase. It looks beautiful too. AMC looks like dilution on a stick. No, I'm just kidding. Not really. But I will say this. This kind of false breakout to then come down and take out the lows, what does that remind me of? It reminds me very much of a AMD style move, right? AMD push up, the world's longest falling wedge / bull flag, trapped all the chasers on the breakout, came back, took out the lows, then decided to move. AMC here definitely took out the lows. So I'm not saying anything wonderful is potentially, but if I take out the, summer squeeze or whatever, I posted a chart that I think it was coin. Sorry, I'm getting way off topic here now. This is already taking way longer than what I wanted it to. But you go to coins chart, you get out here on a weekly basis, and coin built out a real nice inverse head and shoulder, pushed up, flagged out, just like SoFi. So I mean, when people talk about like fractals or repeating patterns, like this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean they have to play out the same way, but you'll see so many charts like this. This massive kind of falling wedge look, inverse head and shoulder broke out, bull flagged out / falling wedge, then move. Then same thing, came back, retested, pushed off again. So this is kind of what I'm looking for Tesla. Right, came back, dipped below just a little bit, just like coin, dipped below a couple of times, then overall had a nice push, come down the end. This is how the market moves, guys. So you take out kind of that squeeze look, and I kind of said this is overall the most bullish thing you would see with AMC is to kind of build out that same thing, that kind of inverse head and shoulder look. Then AMC would actually be in bullish territory, in my opinion, once it starts to get back over $10. But we go look at this thing on a weekly basis, and it's not a bad look down here. Now, of course, you always got to worry about, is the management going to continue to be full-on retards and dilute and do all other kinds of stuff? Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of debt. It's going to have to get. But if you took out that top wick, right, that from that squeeze, and you were just looking at this like I would any other chart, once you start getting back on top of like these $5-6 range, it looks good. And that's how I'm going to approach everything. I think it looks like if this is something that you want to own for the long haul, this is where you'd want to buy. It doesn't mean it couldn't go bankrupt. It doesn't mean things couldn't go bad. But the risk to reward is up, not down from here. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Plan out, however you want when it comes to stop losses or anything like that. But the risk to reward is up, not down here, my personal opinion. Just like GME. I love this look. I love the ascending triangle, the breakout, the low volume retest. Friday put in a nice candle. So long as you keep staying on top of these previous highs right here, it's overall in bullish territory. To me, this just looks like a pause in the prevailing trend that was going on from here. I think GME overall looks good to continue to move topside. And same thing, right? Remember what I was just saying, like on coin, what I was just saying on AMD, all that kind of stuff. This is a very bullish weekly chart. Massive move, long-term correction, breakout, retesting, continue to push. This thing looks like it wants to come up here and test its previous all-time highs on a weekly basis. So that means it's going to take some time. But if there's one stock that can move crazy, right? Roaring Kitty tweet, anything along those lines, this thing could absolutely, it's a great setup. And that's what I always want to do to provide value with, is just provide great setups. So speaking of another great setup, I think Amazon looks great up here. You have this move, you have this consolidation look, the volume very low in this consolidation look. I think Amazon, the overall market is strong. I personally think Amazon over the next month or two, obviously they've got earnings coming up, but I mean, 250 to 260. I mean, even over this next year, I don't think 300 is out of the question on Amazon. It really looks good. It's a great setup. It's same thing, right? What do we have here? We have that slanted inverse head and shoulder to the push up into the kind of bull flag / falling wedge look, the breakout, the retest, the move, the retest of the previous all-time highs. So like I said, this is exactly what I want to see from Tesla. We basically spent, so Tesla here, that 1450 came down, dipped back below, go back to Amazon, dip back below for a little bit, then pushed up to new highs. Exact same thing I'm expecting on Tesla. Google, another one, same look as Tesla, right? Previous breakthrough, push, creating kind of this ascending triangle look after this gap, putting in higher lows. I think Google looks fantastic, guys, for this year. I really do. Roblox, here is another one that's on a weekly basis. So I was doing that with my Discord. But this is another one, had this ascending triangle look, dropped down briefly, and then immediately recovered. I think Roblox starts getting on top of the low 60s. Again, you're about to see it push much higher, probably up into the low to mid 70s is what I think is coming on Roblox. You basically look left from where it IPO'd, you're basically just running into that support resistance flip, right? So you start to break through this. I said this is a daily chart. Yeah, I mean, look, that one extension is like right there at 73.50. So I absolutely love that. And this thing can move quick, right? You had like 4 days worth of move, and then it's been trading sideways ever since. So it could happen quickly. It's certainly one to keep an eye on. Already talked about Block. Oklo, I love this look so much. This is, let me go snag it from Amazon. Copy that. Back over to Oklo. Paste that. Boop, boop. Right? Beautiful. Let's shrink that down just a little bit. So, dip up below here. Here is all your spring starting to move back up. So, I mean, this has made a new all-time high daily close. Not new all-time high, but a daily close on its high. Could bounce around up in here, but I think overall Oklo, I think it's a major winner in 2025. I almost said 2022 for some reason. But this is just, like, look at this on a daily, right? Here's all your daily supply. Come back up here. Buyers, 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 buyers. Every time it came back and tested, you found a nice set of buyers. Now this thing, look at that volume push up. This thing looks fantastic to me. Super macro wise, the next 12 to 18 months. Yeah. 80 to 100 all day long. My personal opinion. And I own shares right now. I bought them all in like the 20 to 22 range. But this is one I posted on Tesla yesterday. I was like, I own thousands and thousands of shares. And honestly, my only fear is I just don't own enough. Is this thing really moves over the next, Tesla's right now is like a 1.3 trillion market cap. My personal opinion is over the next about 5 years or so, that's going to like 4 to 6 trillion. And even if I'm half wrong, I'm going to be very excited and very happy and done with all this crap. That's for sure. But Oklo is one that I told my Discord today. I go, this is another one that I look at and I kind of go, I don't know that I own enough Oklo. So it might be on the buy list. I think nuclear is going to be very hot for the next year or two going forward. Once again, even if it doesn't stay that way, even if you don't want to long-term hold it, these are the type of chart setups. Do you actually think that this risk to reward is to play it to the downside at this point? I don't. I personally think you're mentally handicapped if you think that this is a better... Now, that doesn't mean it can't go down, but if you look at a chart like this and you go, you know what? I really want to grab me some puts on this look. Then I think you're crazy. That's my personal opinion. Now, doesn't mean it's going to go up. And yes, technically, you are at resistance. I do think you should treat resistance like resistance. But you start breaking through this, and I mean, think about how much stronger this is looking, right? The volume sucked out right here on this creep jump. Now the volume's coming back in. I don't know. Feel free to buy puts and laugh at me on Twitter and say I'm wrong. Which, speaking of kind of this flagged out look, I think Victoria's Secret is another one. So if you'll remember, I was talking about this one back down here at 27, which is where I personally bought shares. But this thing looks real nice. This kind of daily flag look right here could continue to, creep down in it a little bit, but I don't think that's most likely. I think, I said, my personal opinion is I think the market's about to turn topside. And there's a saying in the market that how January goes, so does the year. So I do think it's time for the market to get moving topside here in January. But I love this look. I mean, short term, and by short term, I mean like a month out. I mean, it's back up towards 56, I think could happen relatively quickly. Their earnings, you don't really have any of that in the way. But this is, and let me go back out here on the weekly basis. It's just smaller and smaller spreads, volume getting sucked out. So you could wait, definitely for the big move. But yeah, I mean, this just looks super clean. And I mean, look at this weekly breakout here. So yeah, could it come down, on a macro basis, kind of make this sign of strength and trade along in here before it breaks out? Absolutely, it could do that. But I think long term, this one looks like it only wants more up, especially since they started saying, hey, it's okay to put women in women's lingerie, not dudes who think they're women. So that's just a quick rundown of a lot of the different charts that I've been watching here. Hope this video was helpful to you. Please watch it as many times as you need to. Take notes. People are always like, well, where did you get started? How did you learn? I started watching and reading everything I could get my hands on. I took notes and I watched videos until they made sense. Not where I was just kind of like, oh, okay, does he think up or down here? It was, I really want to understand what this dude is talking about. So watch it as many times as it takes. Short week, non-farm payrolls, jolts on Tuesday. And yeah, I think the semiconductors really look the best overall for topside. AMD, I think, looks great. NVIDIA looks great. TSM looks great. Yeah, so I wish you all the best. Once again, not financial advice. I want you to make awesome decisions for yourself, your family, and your portfolio. And if I open the Discord at all, I'll post it probably on Friday. But as of right now, it is closed. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. I don't know if I've talked to you since then, but I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. I'll end with this. I think it's a really good time of the year. Of course, everybody's talking about goals, but I think you should write them out. I think you should put them in a place that you see them every single day. And then I highly recommend you focus on kind of the power of one more. And what I mean by that is there's lots of studies out there that if you go, I'm going to quit drinking and I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to save money and I'm going to get out of debt, and you go, I'm just changing my life altogether, the chances dramatically increase that you don't actually hit those goals. However, when you take one area of your life that you're like, I am going to hyper focus on this particular area for the next 30 days, that you can actually form a winning habit that then allows you to go, okay, now what's the next thing and what's the next thing? So what I personally highly recommend is you take one of those goals that you go, whether it's I'm just not going to drink all of January. Come hell or high water, no drinking. If that's a goal of yours, it's not a goal for me because that part of my life I feel like I have very well under cover. So, but let's say you struggle with drinking too much. You just say, okay, January, dry January. That's the only thing I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to worry about how many times I go to the gym. I'm not going to worry about the food that I eat. I'm not going to worry about anything other than my only focus is I'm not going to take a sip all of January. Your chances of hitting those goals when you hyper focus like that dramatically increase. So if your life's not going exactly the way that you want it to, that's okay. We got time. But let's start taking those real actionable steps to, just like I would always tell, my fitness clients, you didn't get fat overnight, you're not going to get skinny overnight either. So if your life is kind of feeling down in the dumps, it's not magically going to change overnight. However, if you start taking the right steps to change that life, then this time next year, you could be having a completely different conversation with yourself. So, hope that was helpful to you. And as I'm sitting here looking at the Victoria's Secret chart, you can kind of clearly see here this move that then came up, kind of created this self-falling wedge there. So, sorry, this is how my ADD works. Yep. Yeah, I still think mid to upper 50s is coming on that one. All right. Much love. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you in the next one.